Hey folks, I'm Red Monster SC, and in this video we're going to cover the changes to mining in Alpha 3.22, specifically changes to deposit sizes that are aimed at creating a little bit of balance between the solo and the multiplayer mining crews. We're also going to talk about which locations you should be heading to see the biggest difference in those mining deposit sizes, and I'll wrap up with my thoughts on the current state of mining. Now, there haven't been any changes to mineral parameters, lasers, modules, or gadgets, and the minerals per deposit type have not been updated either. However, there is one key update, and it's a major game changer for solo operators, and that is the minimum and maximum size for certain deposit types to spawn in with. Now, in order to notice this, you need to know where to look. There's going to be specific locations in the verse where it'll be a lot more obvious that you've got smaller rocks, or that the rocks are going to be on a larger scale. I'm not going to bore you with all the math on how I got to this point, but I will cover some of the key details right now. Everything prior to Alpha 3.22, and the majority of the rocks that are going to be generated today, will generate on a scale between 0.2 and 1.0, where the lower end of the scale are those rocks that are easy for the solo operator to tackle on their own, and those on the higher end of the scale are going to require large mining organizations with coordinated effort. The variety of rock sizes here led to an inconsistent success rate from mining operations, which wasn't a fun experience. Solo miners found themselves skipping over the majority of the rocks that they came across simply because they were too large to break, and large-scale mining organizations passed over a lot of the smaller rocks because it just wasn't worth the time to scoop. The first significant change is that M and Q type asteroids have had their minimum size increase from a 0.2 to a 0.4. That means you're not going to find small asteroids of these types as often anymore, and it's going to be more consistently on the larger side, which is good for large-scale mining operations that want to make sure you have consistent rocks that are going to fill your moles. But it is going to be a challenge for a solo operator if you're out in the asteroid belt, come across these M and Q type asteroids that are going to be, the majority of them, too large for you to break on your own. The next change is that several surface deposits have had their maximum size decreased from 1 down to 0.8. This means that you're not going to find many of those extremely large rocks on these surface deposits, and they are Obsidian, Quartzite, and Shale. You are going to be more consistently finding rocks that the solo operator can break, but there are still going to be several that you are going to need a multi-crew ship to break. And finally, Felsic and Gneiss have had their maximum size decrease from 1 down to 0.6. This means that on a more consistent basis, that solo operator is going to be able to break these rocks on their own, and it gives you something to target if you're out in a solo prospector just looking for something easy to mine. The result of all these changes is that the asteroid belt is going to be a little bit more of a preference for a large-scale mining group who wants to find those larger M and Q type asteroids in a more consistent basis, as well as providing a path to success for these solo operators. They can go to the surface locations where these deposit types are more prevalent and have a lot more successful time mining on their own. Now, that also means it's time to update my mineral percentages by deposit type chart. This has a lot more context than what I've provided in the past, but it's really just providing a detailed view of what's available in the game files. It includes the probability for each specific material to appear, the minimum and maximum percentage of material that can be populated, as well as my weighted average for the scale and a weighted average for the mass of that type of deposit, based on the materials that are there. Now, you may notice that the percentages for Quantanium, some of the other tier 1 materials, do look a lot higher than what we're seeing in the verse. And I think what's happening is that as the rock is generated, it starts from the top and works its way down. And once it's met the quota, once we've hit 100% of total material there, then it stops generating new materials. And that's why we don't see nearly as much Quantanium as the recipe's calling for. One other note is that each deposit will have a common type that's going to vary based on the location, and those common types of elements will have a significant impact on your ability to be successful mining that deposit. That's going to increase the total mass of the material, as well as your optimum window size, resistance, and other factors that could significantly change your success mining that deposit. I've updated my ore percentage by location tables with a couple of additional parameters that help identify where those lower mass locations are going to be. Because it's difficult to relay the difference in mass that you're going to find within all of these different asteroid types, I've come up with a mass index. I've sorted the average weighted mass for each combination of asteroid type and common material and assigned an index number, 1 being the lowest and 9 being the highest. There are several deposit types per location, so we wanted to be able to represent both an average that you can expect as well as the range. This average mass index takes into account the deposit scale differences, as well as the density of materials that you're going to find within each deposit at that location. I also include the mass index range to give you a better understanding of the variety of rock masses that you might encounter at that location. I've also added the mineable material parameters onto the main table so that it's easier to make decisions on which materials to go for. And I have thrown in a desirability index. This is my own homegrown math to say this mineral is good or this one should be avoided. It takes into account the mineral value, the density, instability, resistance, window size, and cluster modifiers. A higher number means that you should go for that. A lower or negative number means that you should try to avoid. Some specific locations you might want to go to if you're looking for smaller rocks in deep space are the Yellow Belt, but I would be careful about pirates and NPCs there, as well as Crew L3, Mike L1, and Mike L2. And next up, we have the ore percentages by location on the planet's surfaces. You'll notice a much lower average mass index here, as well as the mass index range being a lot narrower window in general. There are some places where we've got a pretty wide range. Locations you want to keep an eye out for are going to be Microtech, Selin, Yella, and I'd put Clio on there, but Clio does have some weather that makes it difficult for a solo operator. And finally, just a note on the mass indexes. There is going to be a lot of overlap between an index of 1 and moving up. This is kind of an estimation on my part, but because of averages and the range that these rocks can spawn in on, as well as the material density, you could see a lot of overlap between those indexes, and it's not a perfect metric. Each of the charts that I've shown will be available, as well as several others that are updated for the 3.22 current build, so you can visit redmonstergaming.com or check the link in the description or the pinned comment to get to that full updated set of charts for 3.22. Now, as far as my thoughts on the state of mining with 3.22, I appreciate the size changes, and I feel like it gives us a better diversity between locations to be successful. However, it is difficult to figure out where those locations are going to be, but that leaves an opportunity for content creators like myself to go out and build some resources and practice a little bit of math. The biggest complaint I've been hearing is that CIG doesn't care about solo mining, and I feel like this does go a long way to address that, but knowing where to mine is going to be key for your solo operators. I still think there needs to be mining missions. The lack of onboarding system makes mining challenging to learn, and I feel like mining missions and a reputation tier could help upskill players within the game systems and not have to go to outside resources and the guide system to pick up the ropes. I also feel like creating missions to mine specific materials or to buy into a highly valuable mining claim can create opportunities to learn and develop. I still feel like the top tier materials are too random. We're scanning every deposit we come across because every single one of them has a chance to spawn Quantanium or one of the other tier 1 materials. I stand by my assertion that there should be rock archetypes focused on either resistance, instability, or density, and we could focus down on specific material types that will always be there and have a more consistent and enjoyable mining experience where deposit types matter more than they do right now. Overall, I'm looking forward to exploring some new mining locations, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Are the asteroid changes frustrating you as a solo miner, or are your group mining sessions getting a major upgrade? Also, don't forget to check out the merch store. I've got a new topographic desk mat, mug, and mousepad that are perfect for the cultured mining enthusiast. You can connect with me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, and Patreon using the links in the description. And thank you to my patrons for your ongoing support, funding channel giveaways, and other perks for the Red Legion community. And finally, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, because there's a lot of math I can make up, and you just saw half of it.